Hey, how's it going, everyone? It's Freddie again. Today we're on the MPC live. Just a little quick history about the MPC and myself. I got my first MPC like around 2003, 2004, which was the 2000 XL. And then I got rid of that, and then I got the 2000 later. And then I got rid of that, and then I've been on the MPC 1000 for a while. Um, I've had experience with other MPCs like the Renaissance, which was kind of like more of a controller, as well as the 2500, which was not too different from the 1000. My 1000 is running the JJOS and stuff like that. Um, the new MPC Live and the new MPC X, or the newish MPCs, are a lot different from those like kind of Roger Lynn style of MPCs. Um, And I know that a lot of like MPC users, especially MPC purists out there, they're kind of hesitant to jump on to something brand new, especially something like the Live, the X, or even the Renaissance or the MPC Touch, which were more just controllers. This is more of a hybrid system, so you can use it as like a standalone MPC like you would traditionally, or you can hook it up to your computer and use it as a controller, or basically make beats in standalone mode and then migrate that into the software. I haven't really had too much experience with the software at all. I just kind of use this more as a standalone kind of MPC, just like your traditional kind of style of making beats on it. Um, yeah, and then, I think the hesitation from older MPC users jumping onto something like the Live or the X is understandable. One, because we kind of associate those older MPCs with like legendary producers like the MPC 60. We kind of associate with DJ Premier. The 2000 XL we associate with like Pete Rock, and the 2000 we associate with Kanye, and the 3000 we associate with Dilla, of course, and Dr. Dre, and DJ Quick and Battle Cat and all these other legendary producers. And then like the MPC 4000, Just Blaze was using that for a long time. So I feel like we, since we associate those older style MPCs with like these legendary producers, we kind of want to kind of become those types of producers. So we kind of use the gear that they use, which were those older style MPCs. There's not really any kind of, I guess, legendary producers that are using the newer style MPCs like the Live or the X. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's legendary producers like in the music industry that are utilizing these, but it's nowhere like that have that kind of that following and stigma as like those legendary like Dilla and like Pete Rock and stuff like that. And of course, this is pretty much a computer in a box now. So this doesn't have like all the limitations that it once had. You can do multiple effects on pads, multiple effects on like sends and returns, and like a whole bunch of other stuff on here. What's cool about this new MPC is you can hook up MIDI controllers directly to this, like a MIDI USB keyboard, something like this, and it goes right into these like USB slots on the back, and you can control key groups like that. So if there's like a synth or like a bass, you can just play it on the keys rather than playing it on the pads. So a number of things you can do on this. This can be kind of like this, pretty much the center of your workflow or your workstation. Like you don't even need a computer anymore. Or I would, on my older MPCs, I would kind of sketch out beats on the MPC and then export all those sounds into my computer and then just kind of move from there. Whereas this, I feel like you can kind of bring everything into this and just kind of use this as kind of the center of your workflow or whatever. But it has some cool new features like a touch screen and some other stuff on here, like step sequencing and like kind of like a MIDI grid, which is kind of cool. And then just navigating through a touch screen, I'm pretty sure people are pretty used to using like iPads or iPhones. So it won't be too hard. It's a little bit, since if you're an old MPC user, you're kind of used to the muscle memory of using the cursor buttons and the big knob and everything, but this works fine. But we'll go ahead and just get into it. Just a disclaimer, I'm not fully versed on the MPC Live. I've only been using it for like maybe a month or so. The first time I used one of the newer MPCs was the MPC X, and I actually just made a beat just like at my local audio store, and I was able to kind of create something extremely fast on it. It's like the fastest I've ever made a beat on an MPC. So the Live isn't too different from that, other than the layout and a few knobs and buttons and stuff like that. But we'll go ahead and get into it. I already have something kind of like laid out on here. Let's just go to the sample first. So here's the sample. Yeah, and then the drums are, I believe, this. So it was basically a drum loop, and then I just kind of cut everything, just created chops from the drum loop. And there's some other stuff on here. There's a hi-hat loop, which I believe is this. Oh. And then for the bass line, what you can do is you can load key groups into the MPC, and then basically what you can do is hook up like a MIDI controller like this straight into the USB port on the back, and then you can just play it like. So that's what I did. I just hooked up a keyboard to this. But if you're used to playing bass lines on like the pads, you can do that as well. But I've never been good at playing bass lines on the pad, so I don't really do that. And then I took some horn samples and imported them, and then I just kind of chopped them up and added effects to them. So we'll mute that one for right now. And then everything together sounds like this. Let's just go ahead and start with a sample. I also have just like a hi-hat playing in the back, and open hi-hat. And then here's what it sounds like with the horns. So I'm just basically just playing the chops from the horns. Okay, let's just mute some of this other stuff. Let's go ahead and mute the sample as well as the bass line. So this is what the drums sound like. Bring the sample. The sample playing out. Yeah. Basically, I just tuned the samples just so it matches the BPM because it's pretty much just like a loop. And then some of the the hi-hat loop, I had to kind of go in and fine-tune it just so it matches the BPM as well. What's cool about this one is you can time stretch everything as well. So if you have some percussion loop, you can time stretch it to the drums and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool. Other than that, that's pretty much it. That's kind of how I sketch out things. I usually start with the sample on the MPC. Let me think about that. Actually, sometimes I start with the drums on the MPC. Usually when I'm on software, like Ableton, I'll start with the sample and I'll start with sample chops. But I feel like mostly on the MPC, I'll start with drums because it's so much more faster to program drums on samplers than it is to program a bunch of sample chops. So just to get the ball rolling, I'll program the drums fast, like something simple, and then I'll find a sample to kind of fit the drums. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. Some other features I really like about the MPC Live, it has a built-in battery. So right now we're not even plugged into the wall. It has this lithium rechargeable built-in battery, which I think can last up to 6 hours, which is pretty incredible. So if you want to take your MPC out of the studio and into the living room, or if you want to make a cheesy video of you making beats while you're camping or something like that, you can do that. But yeah, if you're always on the go or always on the road making beats and you're strictly an MPC user, this is probably the one for you. I wish I had more ins. It only has a 1/4 inch in and then a phono in where you can hook up a turntable, but I wish I had another separate in. And then it has a SATA connections in the back, so you can install a hard drive or an SSD directly into this. So what I did was I just basically loaded all my sounds onto an SSD drive, and then I just plugged it directly into the MPC, and that I just have all my samples and like a bunch of library records and stuff, so I can sample, so I'm not constantly having to sample directly into this. The only times I do sample directly into the MPC is like when I have like an external like synth or keyboard or something like that, or a guitar, then I'll sample directly into the MPC. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the most part. I mean, this video is not really about like an in-depth kind of review or anything about the MPC Live. I don't really want to make one of those. There's plenty out there that you can watch. But for the most part, I'm pretty happy with the MPC Live. You can do multiple effects. You can do a whole bunch of stuff. It has more leeway for performance kind of stuff. And I think this would fit like a whole bunch of people's needs, regardless of what type of music you produce, whether it's hip hop or electronic music, house music. You can make a bunch of cool stuff on here. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. This was just kind of like a beat on the MPC Live. In a future video, I'll go over kind of how I create something from scratch on the MPC. But just to kind of keep this video a little bit shorter, we're going to just cut it there. So thanks for tuning in. Peace.